Hi, my name is Claude Blanc, and I am an executive and business coach. I have been doing this for the last 20 years. Before that, I had a very successful career in the corporate world in a variety of functions and in a variety of industries. When things came to an end in my corporate trajectory, I wondered, well, what am I going to do next? And I came across an article on business coaching. And I say, well, I know business. I can do this. And so I went through training. I went through certification. And I remember when I finished my certification, I had tears in my eyes because I say, I know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a coach. And I've never looked back. I'm still doing this today.
Now, if you could go back and help yourself, right, at the very beginning of your coaching time, is there any advice that you would have given yourself at that moment? It's like, okay, great. You've got your coaching certificate. You need to go and talk to this type of person, or you need to go and enroll in this course, or you need to go to this trade show. Is there any specific directive that you would give yourself to acquire that first client?
Yeah. So what was really essential from the beginning was networking and also having a clear plan. So I had an action plan for every single day. I knew what my monthly goal was, and then I worked it back to the week and to the day. And so it was my scorecard. For each day, I had to make so many calls. I had to have so many meetings. At the beginning, I had a networking event a day. Every single day, I went to a networking event. Things have changed since, but it's all about relationships, right? Ultimately, and so cultivating relationships, both past and future, and upcoming, is absolutely essential.
I've got a selfish question. So I've worked in sales for a long time, and I find myself feeling like the people that I sell to, right, that I've introduced a transactional element to our relationship, and it's somehow tainted the relationship, so to speak. How do you sell to someone and deepen your relationship with them and make them feel closer? Because it's like, you have to fulfill, you owe them. And if you don't, right, that's on you as the closer. How do you navigate that and deepen the relationship while also still engaging with people in these transactions?
Well, so when I sell, is it about me or is it about them? And if it is about them, then it's a service. And so it's very natural. If I am bringing value to somebody else, automatically our relationship will grow and will improve. I think it's the mindset that matters. No, I'm not a taker. I'm a giver.
Mm.
And I think that makes a world of a difference. The used car salesman at the image who is just about closing the deal. No, that's not my approach to sales. My approach to sales is, well, what is your issue? What is your problem? I want to help you.
Sure, that makes sense. So let's shift gears as promised. I first want to ask you, because I prepped you for this question, what is your secret to a good life?
Relationships at every level, fostering and nourishing relationships at work, in a family, and it's an ongoing process. I would say love is the key, right? To use but what kind of love are we talking about? It's a love of service. It's a love that calls for reciprocity, and that's true again in any environment, both at work and at home, and with family and with strangers. What kind of value do I bring in a relationship? And then when I fail, I know I failed, right? And so because obviously it's not a piece of cake all the time, right? And so when you fail, you just start again. It's like a child who stumbles and doesn't stay there, gets up and start again. So constantly looking for new ways of nurturing relationships.
I have this really good friend of mine. I think he listens to the show, and he is a brilliant gift giver. He's so good at it. He just is always dropping by treats and stuff and tickets and just he's got that muscle built in his brain. And I'm the type of person who I stress about like whether or not I'm going to give you socks for Christmas. I think about it and it drives me crazy thinking about getting gifts for people. I always think it's the wrong choice. And so I feel like I am in this position of moral debt to this friend of mine. And I found myself today scheming on like how I can get to his level in the relationship because I feel like there's this imbalance between us, right? That he's somehow better at the relationship than I am. And I'd be curious just your advice for somebody in that situation.
I think that we are all different. I mean, your form of giving is not his form of giving, but you're still a gift for him because he's your friend. He considers you as his friend. Therefore, there is mutuality there. There is something mutual going on.
Mm.
It's not maybe the same. Maybe you don't offer him a pair of socks or a bottle of wine or whatever it is, right? But it doesn't matter. Self-giving takes so many forms. It can be a smile, it can be a simple smile, it can be a simple greeting. I mean, in our everyday relationships, there's nothing heroic about the way we relate with people on everyday matters. But we can make each encounter a special encounter, and I think that's what matters.
How do you make each encounter a special encounter?
You look at a person as a gift to you, no matter who that person is. And it's sometimes really difficult because there are people that you don't agree with at all. There are people that are dramatically different from you. But are we of the same species? And if we are of the same species, then I have to find out what's in you that's common with what's in me. Where do we meet?
So I want to pivot again. You told me that you experience a miracle every day, but I'm curious if there are any magical, mystical, spiritual experiences that you have had in your life that you could tell us a story about.
Oh, yes. There have been many, actually. I had a pretty tough, when I was growing up, things were really tough, and I got myself into all kinds of troubles. But then one day, I'm French born, right? I was born in France. And one day, I came across a book, the Bhagavad Gita, which is pretty much a condensate of Hindu spirituality. And that book really struck me. I said, well, if what's in that book were true, then my life could have a meaning. And packed my bags, and I left for India to check it out. I had $50 in my pocket, and that trip. Now, of course, that was way back in the late '60s, right? So $50 went a little further than it does today, but really not that much further. And that trip was extraordinary. The people I met all along the way, it was a daily discovery. Really. People who were traveling like I was, but also the people. I remember one, for instance, in Kandahar, in Afghanistan, that old man sitting in front of his doorsteps, right, and we could hardly communicate because we didn't have much of a language in common, but something was going through. And I thought, well, this guy has so much wisdom, and he has never moved from his doorsteps. And here I am, running around the world to find that wisdom as well. But maybe I just need to stay still, to find that stillness, traveling or not, finding that stillness inside. So, I mean, there were experiences after experiences. When I arrived in India, my first stop was in Amritsar, which is a city for the Sikhs, and I was on a bridge, and I was looking down, and there was some sort of a religious festival going down below. So I'm just looking at it, and a kid comes by me and takes my hand, and says, "Come, come," and he takes me down where all this was happening, and he said, "Sit down." So here I was sitting down among hundreds of people, and they were giving out food, and so I got food with them as well. So that this was my first experience in India, and that was absolutely unbelievable, amazing. And then the experience in Varanasi, by the Ganja, with sharing the life of the sadhus, the bigger monks. That too was an amazing experience. So that whole trip was really something special. And I brought it back with me, and then I got into Christianity, into the Catholic Church, and because my guru in Nepal told me, what you're looking for, you're going to find it in your own tradition. Go back to your own tradition, which I had rejected as a young man ages before. And so I went and dig out what I had left behind. I spent some time in a monastery in Switzerland, and there I had a new revelation on that whole experience.
A renewed relation on the experience? What happened in that monastery? Was it some vision that you had? Was it just the time studying? And
Yes.
yeah.
So one night in particular, I found myself in the church, prostrated. I felt like nothing. Like I was, like my life was a total mess, and I had to start all over again, and I didn't know where to start. And I felt such a presence of God at that moment, and the sense that yes, I could rebuild my life, and and I did. I went back to France. I went back to Paris. Then I went to work as a farm worker, which was because I wanted to be working with the soil. Now it was, once I was doing it, it was definitely not nearly as romantic as I'd imagined it would be. Right? It was spending time behind the tractors, smelling the fumes, and it was a whole different experience. But it built in me the strength that I carried forward.
I did concrete work in Kansas, of all
Mm-hmm.
places,
Mm-hmm.
and it was beautiful, and it was awful at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. It was the hardest work ever. So I'm curious. You've had this rich history in corporate, in the corporate space, and now you've transitioned to becoming a life coach. And I'm curious, in the midst of this life that you've had, was there a piece of advice that you got along the way that rises to the top, that when things get difficult, you remember this advice, or maybe a mantra that you repeat, or just a piece of wisdom that was given to you that you always come back to, that brings you back to base? And I'll tell you mine. It came from a guy named Rich Christensen, and he just told me that you have no evidence to suggest that you don't make it. Right? Here you are. Look at the past, look at all the hard things that you've been through, and just realize logically that you made it. You make it every time. You always have, and you probably always will. You're a smart guy. Figure it out. So I always come back to that wisdom. Is there anything that you can share with us? The best wisdom that you got throughout your career?
Yeah, I think there's one mantra that came to me through Jesuit priest who in California works with gangs. And I heard it from him, and I adopted it as mine. He said, "Hear this now. Here, not here, but here. Okay, and whatever this is now." So to be fully rooted in the present moment, forgetting about the past, forgetting about the future, being. And when it hits a fan, then it's a great place to be, okay? Because you can really assume things fully, and then move from there. So yes, hear this now is what helps me. And there are other. There is a passage of scripture that also comes to mind to me pretty often. It's from the letter of Paul to the Romans, and it says, "Rejoice in hope, endure in affliction, persevere in prayer." Those three things. So rejoice in hope. So you rejoice in something that you don't have yet. Otherwise, you wouldn't be hoping for it. You will already have it, right? Rejoice in hope. Endure in affliction. So endure, put up with the stuff. Just persevere in prayer. For me, prayer is the present moment. The essence of prayer is being fully in the present. Because if there is a God, that God is eternally present. And so if I want to, prayer is connection with God. It's in only as much as I am fully in the present that it happens.
you've gone through all these spiritual experiences, right? You've experienced the power of sadhus, right, in India, and probably even saw them do some tricks for you, because I know that that's part of their gimmick. And you had these moments of divine reflection, laying prostrate on the floor of a monastery in Switzerland. And so, you said, if there's a God, and I've had a lot of very strong Christians and very strong Hindus and Jains and Scientologists on the show. And I myself feel that the way that you just stated, that if there is a God, where are you on the subject? You seem to have lots of evidence of divinity in your life. And so punctuate it for us. Tell us the secret. Is there, and what, or is that the whole game? It is a mystery for sure, every time, every life.
Yeah. So if you can understand it, it's not God, right? That's Augustine. We say that if you can understand it, it's not God. So God is definitely a mystery, right? You never own God. You never capture God. But I am made, I believe, in the image of God. And therefore, that image is in me as it is in you, as it is in every human being I encounter. And again, that's where nurturing relationships is important, because I want to find in you the image of that same God that I found in me. Okay. So, because there are times when you doubt, right? And looking at what's happening in our world today, and so many atrocities of all sorts, and I found that painful and difficult to accept, and say, well, how does a loving God allow this to happen? At the same time, I think that loving God is actually suffering that reality. Now, that loving God is at the heart of that reality. And so that's what brings me hope.
Part of the purpose of this show, and one of the reasons that people like listening to the crazy stuff that I have to say, is the process of knowing God is kind of part of the whole idea, is trying to understand what it is. And so I think the question that comes to mind for me is it just because people would have called the science that we know now miracles 200, 300, 400, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So now we've detangled those mysteries, we've solved those problems. Those things are no longer God, right? We've scratched them off the list. And so I'm curious for yourself, do you think that it is a being, like a person in the sky, a man behind the realm, or is it the quantum soup that we're all in? Is it a computer program? What do you think with all of the data that we now have?
So from the way I understand it, I look at God as a person. Actually, I look at it from the Christian perspective, the Trinity that is one, right? So God is relationship. God is love. It's the love of three persons that love each other so much that they are absolutely one, as one as the atom is one, right? And so, and that presence is everywhere, all the time. And it expresses in, this morning I took a walk by the beach, right? And I hadn't done that in a while because I just came back from England, and I was away for 3 weeks. So it was the first time I was back on the beach, and I was in awe in front of the ocean, in front of it. And but it's not just in front of the ocean. It doesn't have to be in front of the ocean. I look at my computer and I'm in awe, because yes, you say that it's not a miracle, but it is a miracle. Every morning when I wake up, it's a miracle. I am alive. Why am I alive? What's the purpose of it? Why are you here? I must say, I've asked myself that question forever, and I believe that there is an answer in each present moment. Again, we go back to this idea of the present moment. But there is no answer overall. It's in the present.
It's right here. You got to be looking for it. You got to be paying attention. Here, this,
now.
Yeah. Claude, where can everyone find you?
Well, so my website is www.cbn, chbassociates.com. My email address is Claude, Claude.Blanc at chbassociates.com. And I would love to hear from any one of you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Eric.
This has been the Pulse Ox podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.